Well, it's exactly a month ago today that Normandien Farms, one of the biggest employers in northern KwaZulu-Natal, based near Newcastle, was invaded. The man who runs it, Sean Hoatson, is with us to actually take us through what happened from his perspective. It really looks like overreach from the parliamentarians, but let's see what the real story is. Sean, good to be talking to you. Just give us some background, if you would, on what Normandien Farms actually does.
Morning, Alex. Normandien Farms is an agro-processing industrial business. We have a sawmilling business and a beverage business. Normandien Farms is based just south of Newcastle. And on the morning of the 4th of April, we had these 10 SUVs arrive with 40 to 50 parliamentarians, Home Affairs, Department of Labour, and KwaZulu-Natal members arrive at our site for an unauthorized visit. And mayhem, it was just free for all.
We've had various reports already on Biz News about this. We spoke with Gerard Papenfuss from NIASA, and he's clearly angry, but he's an employer body, or the leader of an employer body. You guys own the business. When you say that they arrived and they were unauthorized, was this trespassing? Was this illegal? What they did?
Alex, yeah, for that story through NASA is a fairly accurate representation of what occurred on the day. Department of Labour inspectors are able to enter your sites at short notice without appointments. But on this particular instance, Alex, when you arrive with a party like you arrive with 50 people, previous arrangements need to be made. I mean, our boardroom there and our site is small. It wasn't supposed to accommodate everybody. They forced their way in. I think the story has been here. One can see the altercation by security guards outside. One can see just the complete lack of respect and compliance with our processes and our organization. There's foot and mouth in the region. That site is the base for our farm. If you get foot and mouth in there, you've got vehicles in and out that are going to various parts of the farm, delivering food, fencing, whatever else is going on. And there was absolutely no regard for our business, for our people, for the respect of our people, for our staff that were traumatized by this whole circus that went on.
Just take us through the foot and mouth story. Gerard said you've got a large cattle herd. Have you managed to keep them safe so far from foot and mouth?
We have managed to keep them safe. Look, Normandien, where this business operates, is a fairly relatively sizable chunk of land. We've got obviously the sawmill site. We've got forestry operations on the farm and various all over. We have the beverage plant as well, which is about 7 km from the sawmill site. So the sawmill site is sort of the hub of the farm, and that's where the storage of farm commodities are kept and distributed. So yes, we have kept the farm safe, but it requires management and it requires to follow the processes of access.
So if I came to visit you, what process would I have to go through, and presumably invited? How would I be able to visit you? What would I have to do to make sure that I don't spread foot and mouth disease to your herd?
The first thing, when we arrive at our gates, Alec, there's somebody who will meet you with a spray of chemical. They'll spray the soles of your feet, and they'll spray the vehicle, the tires all around, the full circumference of the tires and the underside of the vehicle. And once that's done, and everyone in the cars had their feet sprayed, the soles of the shoe sprayed, access will be granted.
So in this case, 10 SUVs with roughly 50 people, as you say, some of them from the Oversight Committee at Parliament on Employment and Labour, arrived, and they didn't go through this protocol. Was there a reason why they refused?
Yeah, they absolutely were unmanageable at the gate. They refused to listen to our security. They forced their way in. They had police with them, heavily armed police with automatic rifles. And they just forced the gates open and effective arrest. Our staff tried to slow them down. Who are you? What are you doing here? What do you want? And it was just screaming and shouting and access. And obviously, the staff that were there, Alec, were so intimidated by what was going on that they just opened the gates and let them in. And, we had, the story goes on that various people just went around the site. They weren't escorted by anybody. We had members of parliament making videos, releasing videos of what was going on without any context, without understanding what was going on, calling us racist employers. Just absolute lack of control and respect, Alec.
Was there any pretext for the arrival? In other words, were they looking for perhaps illegal immigrants working for you, or for some problem that you had created or allegedly created?
No. What we picked up on social media after the visit was they were looking for illegal employees. Obviously, they didn't find any. They were expecting to find main violations. They didn't find any. They did a compliance audit. They found all the documentation that was required. They found an order. They found no findings on any of the legal compliance issues that we comply with. And as a result of that, Alec had to try and find something to close us down. I had a chat with the site manager this morning, and he was telling me that the labour inspectors actually physically didn't walk around the site. They issued us a prohibition notice from their offices, having not found any non-compliance issues. And one of the issues they shut us down for was dust. And they tried to produce, we wanted to produce the hygiene sorter, which we had done, which indicates where dust masks are required, where dust masks are not required. They weren't interested in that. They wanted to shut the site down.
I come from that area, or left many years ago, true, but I've had quite a bit of response to this. A friend of mine, Douglas Welsh, who I grew up with, said that he's had a similar issue with a small boutique private hospital that he has in an area called Hilldrop, which is, I suppose, also on the southern part of town. And then I got a WhatsApp from a local businessman who said that there's an EFF fellow by the name of Lucky Shabalala who has been at it. The EFF hasn't got much support in Newcastle and the environs, it being part of KwaZulu-Natal, I guess MK country and Ikarta country. And he's been causing a lot of trouble. This is what this businessman alleges. Do you know this Lucky Shabalala fella?
Yes, we have come across him from time to time over the years. He purports to represent community interests, and he's just in it for himself.
Was he the instigator of all of this? Because I find it really strange that you've got MPs who aren't even from the area coming in to do this surprise inspection. First of all, I don't know if they're allowed to by law, but secondly, why don't they go and look in their own areas?
Yeah. So again, through this process, we did pick up that we were in Newcastle, really around the textile industry, checking for illegal factories and everything that goes on in that sector, which I'm not familiar with. But I think they just use it as an opportunistic opportunity to come and find a large employer and just harass them for social media likes. I mean, if you see all the social media stuff, I've seen footage from KwaZulu, I've seen footage from the Department of Labour, I've seen footage from the political, the African, I think his name is Vuo Zungula. He as well, again, completely off point. So it was doing to try and highlight to the masses what parliamentarians are, how they're earning their money.
I'd be very interested to hear a little more about the way that if somebody breaks the protocols of foot and mouth disease, given that it's a crisis in the country and it is a national disaster, and the minister wants to have it declared a national emergency. I don't know if he's managed to achieve that yet. But if you just break those protocols as a private citizen, what happens to you? Is there any recourse under law?
Alec, I'm not familiar with those breaking of those protocols. I mean, the protocols are really designed around minimizing the spread of foot and mouth. And I think every farmer is doing what he can to protect his herd and mitigate against risk.
The point is, it is a state-controlled disease. And here you have organs of the state who clearly are not applying their own rules. And that's where, as a private citizen, there's a big question. But I guess from a legal point of view, have you spoken to your lawyers? Is there anything that you can do to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, we've also through NIASA written to Parliament, trying to put focus on this particular area. But in terms of laying charges against them for not following foot and mouth, no, we haven't done that.
And what about laying charges for their trespassing?
Yes, we have laying charges for criminal injury, for some racist behaviour by some of the members. The local police station, we've had cases registered with them. And again, we haven't heard anything, but yes.
We've had feedback from the Patriotic Alliance. I was only aware at a very early stage of two parliamentarians who were there. The one was from the EFF, who are kind of par for the course, but the other one is from the Patriotic Alliance, and its leader, Gayton McKenzie, is very pro-business. And so this was a very strange thing for me. The Patriotic Alliance is very angry that we highlighted the involvement of its MP, a recently appointed MP called Juliette Basson, who comes from Ermelo. Was she in any way stopping this mob from doing what they were doing? Was she, in other words, an ameliorating influence? Because that's the picture they're trying to paint with me.
Juliette Basson was on site. She, I think, didn't quite realize initially what was going on, but was sympathetic to the plight of the employer when she saw how the EFF member of Parliament and the NK member of Parliament was behaving. And yeah, we have reached out to her. We have been in contact with her before the story broke. And yeah, she unfortunately didn't stop what was going on. She didn't speak up. She allowed it to happen, but she was sympathetic to the employer in the circumstance.
That's interesting. So she didn't stay outside. She participated in entering the premises.
She was on the premises. She was involved. She was a party to the raid.
Have you got any advice that you can give to other business owners in South Africa, given the experience that you've had?
Alex, it's quite an intimidating prospect when you have the size of the group arrive with armed police, with the aggression that they arrived. So the advice I would give to other business owners is simply just breathe, slow down, try and establish who, what, where, what is the purpose of the visit, and just try and de-escalate the situation. It escalated immediately because our security tried to enforce access controls, and that immediately escalated it. They expected that this group expected that the doors would be open, the gate would be open, they would be subject to no inductions, protocols, and the like. And that's what escalated it so quickly.
So you've clearly spent quite a bit of time going through all of this in your mind. Was there any legal right that the group had to access your premises?
The only legal right was the labour inspectors, and labour inspectors can be accompanied by an interpreter and by the SAPS if required. Now, there's no reason to believe that the SAPS was required to be part of this inspection. As I say, we've got multiple sites operating. We have labour inspections happening on a regular basis across these sites. We don't have issues. This was completely uncalled for. It was overreach. It was intimidation. It was on a scale that we've never seen before.
And has there been an apology from any of the political parties, or indeed the portfolio committee chairman, who apparently was there as well?
No, there have been no apologies. There have been no apologies. There's been no retractions. In fact, the prohibition notice that we got for Dust, Alec, the following, when they left, when these department's personnel left, they said to our management team, you can start this business tomorrow. You can start it tomorrow.
Meaning?
So what was the prohibition order? What was the prohibition order for? It was just for media. It was for social media.
And it appears...
And if there were some issues, do you think they would have been open? Do you think they would have said that?
In other words, these parliamentarians that arrived in Newcastle on a different mission, and somebody had a bright idea that let's go and nail the biggest employer now of this in this district. Is that the way we should interpret it?
Look, what's going on in the textile industry is they're losing jobs. So obviously union membership is dropping. We have our suspicions that this was around, that there's a link between union membership and Department of Labour working together. There was KwaZulu, after this visit, that evening, KwaZulu was trying to sign up members of the organisation outside the gates. We members of the bargaining council, there are parties that are registered. That's the level that we talk at. We're on the National Council, we speak there, and we are unionised. We have parts that are unionised.
But the fact that the portfolio committee would come all the way from Parliament to come and see you and then find nothing it appears as a taxpayer, a terrible waste of my resources. And I'd like to just try and find out why. What if there was any possible legal motivation or that would enable them to do this?
No, there's no legal motivation. There's no legal motivation for Parliament to come there and do that. There's a local Labour office. The local Labour office does their inspections on a regular basis. There's no need for this from Parliament.
And what's
the cost?
What's the feedback been like from the local community, from people of Newcastle?
The community's always been supportive of our business. The community's always been supportive, sympathetic.
And you have no intention of closing down there and just moving lock, stock and barrel to Tulbagh, where you've got another big plant, or certainly on the mineral side?
We're sons of the soil. We're not going anywhere. We love being in South Africa. We love working here. Business is part of the solution. And let me just add that we work with a lot of organizations. We're members of Forestry South Africa, FSA. FSA have a seat at the table at the PPGR, which is chaired by the Office of the Presidency. Now, the director of FSA has our full story, and I've asked him to put this on the agenda when they have the next meeting. We hear from the president about job creation and the link between business and government and the private sector, and we're doing our bit. And when we get treated like this, when we get these hostile inspections that are absolutely hostile is the only word we can use to describe them. What message does that send to business? We're trying to build a bridge. We are providing meaningful employment. The jobs we provide are in rural areas where there is minimal employment. And so it's not how you should be treating employers. We welcome audits, we welcome inspections, but do them in a manner that is befitting.
Just to close off with, your brother Rob is going to be, he's the guy who drives Thirsty, so he's the consumer-driven brand. He's going to be at the Biz News conference next week. And you
Yes.
look after a different side of the business, and your side of the business is the one that was attacked in this way.
Yes, yeah, it was. This was the one that had the unwelcome audits.
And
Correct.
how many people does your group or your family employ?
Alec, we employ in the region of 3,000 people. Mpumalanga, KZN, Western Cape, and Gauteng. Yeah, 3,000.
Sean Hoatson from Normandien Farms. I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.